So this is something we've been excited to do for a little while now. This is a mug cake shootout. So I've got a collection of 4 mug cake recipes that I've collected on the internet that Alice and I have been wanting to try for a while. 2 of these are standard chocolate cakes, one using egg, one without. I've got a Nutella mug cake and a caramel apple mug cake. So let's get started. We're gonna start with our Nutella mug cake. It starts with 1 egg whisked until lightly foamy, followed by 2 tablespoons of Nutella, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, a ½ cup of ground almond meal or almond flour, and a pinch of salt. Once you've got all the lumps out, you can add in about a tablespoon's worth of chocolate chips. Next is our caramel apple mug cake. So we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of melted butter, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of coconut flour, a ¼ cup of almond flour, a pinch of salt, 1 egg, ½ teaspoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of unsweetened almond milk, just a splash of vanilla, and about a ¼ cup of grated apple. All right, and there's our first 2 mug cakes. The caramel apple mug cake took almost 2 minutes in the microwave, but this mug cake is technically supposed to be done in 2 mugs, so I'm not too surprised about that. And the Nutella mug cake took about a minute. So we're gonna let this cool for a second and then give them a try. So we've got the caramel apple here, and I didn't have any caramel extract, which is why I used vanilla and brown sugar. And this is the Nutella, and you can see the texture of the cakes here. They look fantastic. So let's give them a shot. So the Nutella is quite subtle. The chocolate chips have all melted, which is really nice, but it has a really good texture. It actually has a cakey texture. I like the apple one too. Fantastic texture and tons of flavor. Again, not a lot of caramel flavor, but the brown sugar and the apple is just terrific. So let's try making our next 2. All right, so next is our no egg chocolate cake. And we're gonna start with 4 tablespoons of gluten-free flour that does not have any xanthan gum, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, a ¼ teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/8 teaspoon of kosher salt. Next, we'll add our 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and we'll whisk this until all the cocoa powder lumps have been dissolved. And now we'll add 3 tablespoons of almond milk. And this recipe suggests placing half of the mixture into your mug, putting in a couple of chocolate chips or some chocolate wafers, and then topping it. All right, so we'll set this aside and prepare our next one, and then we'll microwave both. So our last cake uses egg, and it is going to start with 4 tablespoons of gluten-free flour, 4 tablespoons of white sugar, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, just a pinch of salt, and we'll mix this and then prepare our wet ingredients. Our wet ingredients start with 1 egg, 3 tablespoons of milk, 3 tablespoons of oil, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. This looks like a lot of batter, so I'm going to mix it in my ramekin. This recipe also calls for some chocolate chips. I'm just going to mix them in. Okay, so let's get this into the microwave. All right, so here are our last 2 chocolate cakes. This is the one done without egg, and it's quite fudgy, but it's really dry. I'm actually quite surprised. The person I got this recipe off of, I've followed quite a few of her recipes over time, and I had a lot of hopes for this one, and I can't say I'm a fan. I also think there's too much salt. The one that's done with egg in it, though, fantastic texture. It is really good. Great chocolate taste. It actually would have filled 2 mugs. It's hard to see, but my ramekin is full to the top. This is quite a large ramekin. You know what? I think my favorite is actually the apple caramel cake. It was super moist and had a great texture. These are both really good, and if you have a hankering for chocolate cake, this is probably the one to do. I was really surprised by the Nutella cake. You couldn't taste the Nutella. It was more of a milk chocolate flavor. Check out the recipes in the description below. I'll also provide the websites I found these recipes at. And check out my wife's channel, Alice's Journey. We've got another cake over there. Hope you guys enjoy.